everybody. Welcome back. I've been on a sacred pause and just taking some time to really go inward and explore whether continuing to do the podcast is something I still am passionate about, or if I'm going to take a break completely, all kinds of things. And I have been having so many growth spurts. I've had so many healings. And if I'm 100% honest, I'm still in the valley. I sometimes refer to things as being the mountaintop or being in the valley. Being on the mountaintop for me is when everything is going well and life feels pretty good. Being in a valley means that I'm going through something and I'm peeling back another layer. That is where I am. I've been there since probably the release of my book and deciding to take a sacred pause from podcasting. I am still in that valley a little bit, but here's the thing that I thought about is when I thought about coming on and recording this episode, the first thing I said to myself was, I'm not in a great space, mind, body, or spirit, to be recording. And I'm not even 100% sure if this is what I want to do. And then when I thought and sat with it a little bit longer, and even right now in this moment, it is coming to me that I have to be perfect, right? And this is masks off for people pleasers and perfectionists. So I'm getting to see another layer of my perfection pattern creeping up. And so it's, oh, if I don't have my shit all together and I'm not clear and I haven't gotten to the other side of whatever I'm going through, how can I come on and speak and talk to you guys about what I'm going through? And then I realized that what is really important is being honest, vulnerable, and sharing with you some things that I'm going through that you may also be going through. At the very least, you can say to yourself, okay, I know I'm not alone because at least one other person, AKA Kim, is going through something similar. One of the things that I have been grappling with is intimacy. And part of what I've been exploring around intimacy is, and first of all, I'll say this is how I describe intimacy, emotional intimacy, is being able to be vulnerable enough to share what is absolutely true in my heart in any given moment, to be as fully honest with you or with another about what is in my heart, and also to be able to share my shadow parts. What I mean by shadow parts is the parts of me that I want to hide behind a mask, the parts of me that I label or judge as less than perfect. That if I were to tell you something about myself, I might fear that you would judge or criticize. What I have been learning as I practice being more vulnerable and sharing these parts of myself with trusted, close people in my life is the more that I share my imperfections and vulnerabilities, the more opportunity there is for closeness in the relationship. I'm always talking about helping others to have more meaningful relationships. I am having the opportunity now to really walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And so, what I am wanting to do moving forward is I want to be able to take this podcast and go even deeper. In the last 4.5 years, I have been vulnerable and I shared a lot of what I've gone through in my life. I've even shared more vulnerably in my book, Free to Be, A Pathway to Inner Liberation. I share so many vulnerable stories in that book and things that I've gone through. But this feels different. This feels juicier, if you will. And I'm wanting to go to an even deeper level because my healing is going to an even deeper level. So, what I would like to do is solo episodes and guest interviews, but I want to bring on people, or even when I'm doing a solo episode, is to talk about the topics that are really tough for us, such as intimacy. I think intimacy is probably an issue that most of us avoid with a 10-foot pole because honestly, having a deep level of intimacy is not for the weary. It is hard work. It feels so freaking uncomfortable. And I can say that from experience because I am going through that now. It's important for me to do this work because I desire more connection in my life. I desire deep connection and close relationships. Something that I lacked my whole life. I rarely had it. I may have had times or moments where I touched upon feeling close or connected, really connected to another, but it was fleeting. I mostly felt connected with nature. And I can remember that very vividly when I was a young girl. But when I would try to have that kind of closeness or that connection with another individual, it either A, just wasn't there, or I didn't know how to cultivate it. I think very few of us are taught the skill on how to be intimate. We're not taught how to be vulnerable. We learn from our caregivers and society that it's not safe to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable means taking an emotional risk. Brene Brown describes it. And she also says it's about facing uncertainty, right? Thus, control. When we want to go into control mode because we are uncomfortable with uncertainty. If we put our hand on the stove and got burned, we learn not to put our hand on the stove anymore. Likewise, if we took the risk to be vulnerable and share something personal or something from our heart with another, and we were not received, not seen, not heard, not understood, that hurt. And rather than continuing to put our hand on the stove and get hurt or try that again, we stop and we build a wall and we keep ourselves from being vulnerable. As most of you probably know from experience, when we are building a wall around our hearts and staying guarded, it's incredibly difficult to feel close or connected. The more we do that with the people in our lives, the more guarded we become, the more lonely we are. And so loneliness has been a huge wound for me. And that's why I'm coming back around now to exploring how to cultivate and create intimacy with others and how to be more vulnerable. And that's why I want to, with this podcast, really get to the nuts and bolts of how do we create a life that we desire? How do we take off our masks? How do we stop guarding ourselves so that we can truly feel alive, feel free, and feel connected. One of the things that I'm thinking about doing is maybe taking this next year and breaking it into series, doing different series. So I might do a series on enmeshment or codependency with our teens and young adult children. I have a 22 and 25-year-old, and I am learning every single day how to be aware of my patterns of trying to rescue, fix, control, how enmeshed I can be, and how I'm really practicing my 5-step power pathway so that I can heal those parts of myself and have more meaningful, healthy relationships with my 2 children. And if you don't have children of your own, you can still benefit from that series because it can apply to any relationship. So that's one series I'm thinking about doing. Been working on creating what I call the pillars in my life. I have 3 main pillars that I want to do my best to live by. One is having freedom, the other is vitality, and the other is balance. So I might do some series around those 3 pillars. The other one would be what I just talked about in the beginning of this episode, which would be around intimacy and vulnerability, because that is something else I'm going through. And then finally, I'm thinking about doing a series on the inner controller. What I'm feeling for continuing this podcast, it will look slightly different from how it looked before. For the last 4.5 years or 260 episodes, it's such an incredible feat to have recorded that many episodes. What would be different is that I had a guest on almost every week. I did some solo episodes, and it would be based on the guest, and then that's what the topic would be about, albeit that it all connected to wearing a mask, people pleasing, and perfectionism. Moving forward, I still will talk about masks, people pleasing, and perfectionism because it will come up organically and naturally. What I'm wanting to do this time around is to use this platform to share with all of you almost in real time the things that I'm going through myself, my own mountains that I'm climbing, and share with you my own learnings, experience, strength, hope, and also those of other people as well, bringing on guests that can share or add to what I'm experiencing. And I can say with almost 100% certainty that you will find something in my story or experience that you will be able to relate to. If you're listening to this podcast, masks off for people pleasers and perfectionists, you will identify or resonate with something and find something that you can connect to and take away from this podcast. And I'll also say this too, if it isn't super clear that a lot of what I talk about in this podcast is codependency. Underneath it all, I'm using the word masks, people pleaser, perfectionist, rescuer, fixer. All of those things are underneath this big umbrella of codependency. And so what I am doing is, and have been doing for the last 25 years, is recovering from codependency. There are actually 12-step meetings for codependence. It's called Codependence Anonymous. Just like people go to AA for alcohol recovery, there is a recovery program for codependence. That's what I'm here to help you see in your own light, to see your own codependent patterns, my experiences through my stories, and how I have worked and healed to be in recovery, and to share that with you so that you can heal as well. I would love to get to know all of you more. I would love to hear from you. I would love engagement. I would love to hear what your questions are, your comments, things you want to hear about. And if there's a way I can support you, if you have constructive feedback, I'm here for that as long as it's kind. I really want this to be more of an interactive community. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can, first of all, subscribe. Secondly, you can leave me comments and I will read all of the comments. If you're listening to this on your favorite platform, podcast platform, then follow me, first of all, and leave a review if you feel moved to leave a review. And you can let me know, you can email me. You can go to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. You can get my email there, and you can follow me just on social media and comment anywhere, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or just on Facebook, and let me know what you're thinking. What are you experiencing? What are your issues as regards to either people pleasing, perfectionism, controlling, fixing, not speaking up, not feeling worthy? Let me know, and we can have a conversation about that. I'm super excited to see where this all goes this year. Spotify sent a summary of all the followers and all these stats and everything. And there are actually a few of you who have my podcast as your top 5 podcasts. So if that's you, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I look forward to a great 2025 with you.